Get Pucked. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Get Pucked podcast. Dave, Vito, Matt here with you. It's been a little bit of time, but we coming back live. We were thinking to ourselves, in fact, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and we said, you know what? This is a fun conversation. We should have this on the podcast. And the conversation started off like this. We were talking about defense, right? Habs are rolling. Let's start with that. They're rolling. They're winners of 3 straight. Things are going really well. They're sitting in the second wild card spot. Nobody had this on their bingo cards. Everybody is loving it. Well, maybe not everybody. Those with the pro tanks might not be so happy, to be fair. But for the vast majority, I think, of people out there, they're pretty happy. The kids are rolling. Caulfield, Suzuki on fire. The Doc acquisition trade. Hughes looks like a super genius. Everything's looking real good up front. But the conversation was about the back end, right? We were talking about, Matheson is slowly coming back. Who's going to be taken out? What do they do? A lot of young kids there and yada, yada. And so the point that we brought up was, who's the number one defenseman in Montreal? Dave, who's the number one defenseman in Montreal? Who's number one?
I mean, I guess you would have to say it'd be Joel Edmondson, but I don't know. I don't know. You're right. There might not be one, like, can you call Joel Edmondson a number one defenseman? Not on a good hockey.
I don't know. Can you call him a number one? I don't know.
No,
Vito,
I don't
who's the number one defenseman in Montreal?
No,
look, I think they have a by committee approach, and it involves some young kids. David Savard, you want to throw his name out there? David Savard, number one D. Let's go.
It's getting worse, Dave. It's getting worse.
Okay. So Vito,
Right.
Vito, tell the listeners who's the number one defenseman in Montreal.
Montreal does not have a number one at the moment.
Okay, that's fascinating. Are they unique in this, or do other teams also not have number
There
one?
is approximately, I think off the top of my head, Montreal is one of 3 teams that don't have a number one right now, but they probably have the worst pseudo number one in the entire league right now, and they don't have anybody that's up and coming that you can literally say is a bona fide number one like a lot of the other teams do.
Okay,
so right
hold
now,
on a second. Hold on a second, because I feel like that right there is the little thing that I've been waiting for. I think just with that sentence alone, you might have pissed some people off who are sitting back saying, "How does this guy sit there and say not even in the pipeline do the Habs not have a number one coming up when you can see Goalie out there right now and you see Harris out there right now, and maybe not xhekaj, but you hear about Barron and you got these guys." They can't possibly be number ones to your estimation. Their ceiling is never number one.
There's nobody right now that's standing out that you look and say, you know what, this person today, tomorrow, next week, next year, they're a bona fide. Plug them in as number one quarterback defenseman that they're going to run the power play. They're going to log in the big minutes and everything. Could Kaiden Guhle be Montreal Canadiens number one? Yes, but is he a number one that you say is better than a Charlie McAvoy, a Noah Dobson, a Cale Makar, an Adam Fox? I just named you 4 or 5 teams.
Give him a chance to develop, though. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. You know what I mean?
To give him a chance.
I don't think Vito, to Vito's defense, I don't think he meant there's never going to be a number one defenseman in Montreal. No. Maybe he's here now, but there's no one.
Oh, he's saying
right now.
Right now, no one is going to condescend to that.
No,
that's what he's saying.
No, but for sure, but. There isn't right now. There's not a number one defenseman now, but Kaiden Guhle could very well transform into one. So could Justin Barron down the line, Jordan Harris, whatever. I don't believe in that. But
what defines the number one?
Very well be.
Sorry, what defines it? What characteristics does the player need to have to be
number one? A workhorse that logs 25 minutes to 30 minutes as you need it, and who can run the power play most likely, or is really good.
45 to 80 points, and 80 points is extreme. That's a Cale Makar. That's a generational defenseman. But give me
no wonder there's no number one. No wonder there's no number one.
Give me anywhere between 40 and 60 point defenseman, and that's who can do the things that Dave also mentioned. That's a number one.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
for sure.
So
a guy who you can rely on, that you when you're penciling in your depth chart, he's there and you know it, and he's there. He's reliable. You don't even have to think about it. Andrei Markov for years. Solid number one defenseman.
Yes.
Okay. Canadiens have not had one since Andrei Markov left.
You could argue PK Subban was on his way there.
Shea Weber.
Shea Weber was Shea Weber was at the time the best defensive defenseman in the league who can score goals.
Okay.
His number, he's not somebody that was going to quarterback a power play. He was not somebody that was going to be deceptive like
But
Markov
are
was. He
you-
was
Shea
something
Weber
else.
was a
Wait.
number one defenseman.
But you're telling me
He
Shea
was a
Weber
number
wasn't the
one
number
defenseman.
one?
But he wasn't in the mold of like what you see in today's NHL.
No, he's not. He's not the new
He's
age.
not.
Yeah.
He's not
He's
the
not
new
Adam
age
Fox.
defenseman.
He's not Cale Makar. He's not like that.
That's why he's
understand.
retired. You know what I
But-
mean? Like he was
Yeah.
he was yesterday's number one
but he
defenseman.
was
Now
the
you
number
evolve.
one.
He
So
was
should
the
the
number one,
Habs.
but when you're looking at all the charts and all the teams at the time who had number one defensemen, and you put Shea Weber in that list, you'd look and say, was he the best offensive defenseman on that list? No. Was he the best defensive defenseman on that list? Yes.
Okay, but that's nothing wrong with that. If you can get a good,
No.
solid defensive defenseman like Shea Weber at number one, you're on the right path.
Yeah,
Right?
you are.
Like
Yeah.
You are.
You could bring in someone to quarterback that power play.
But-
You
but
can
my
run
point- my point
five
to
forwards
that-
on the power play. I'll take a Shea Weber type player on your back end. Like so many teams need that right now, and I think
No
that's
kidding.
the downfall of a lot of teams is just going, an offensive guy. Look at Morgan Riley in Toronto, for example. Like
Yeah.
you can't run your defense off of that. That doesn't work.
But
And
the Montreal Canadiens have not had somebody to quarterback a power play. And
oh yeah,
and
but
the
that's
puck
a
sits on
running
their
joke,
job.
right? Yeah, of course,
Right?
that's
Well,
a running joke.
Okay, but so I bring it back to this, right? Because this really the conversation stemmed from, things are going well right now, but is it sustainable? Yes, no. We were kind of muddled on that, but the biggest need on this team, you suggested it's finding a number one guy now. Now, I countered with saying, don't they have kids there that can possibly take that in a year or two? And they should work perhaps maybe somewhere else, like looking at the next options in goaltending or something to that effect, right? Maybe a solidified absolute number two centerman, or like a 1B, 1A with Suzuki or whatever, like a la Dubois, if we come back to that. But, you came back and you said, no, it's all about defense. They need a number one defense. So would you, well, more importantly, who would you today try and get that guy now? Or are you confident that one of these guys could potentially ascend and get there? Like is it that urgent to you? Should they start not mortgaging the future? That's a silly term, but should they really? Because you have to give a lot, I imagine. Are they at the point now? Is it the right play with all of these young prospects to give a bunch of them away to get a number one guy back today?
Who?
Yeah, that's my next question.
Which team is out there willing to give that up? Nobody.
Depends on what you could.
There's only. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Well, I mean, you got a guy like Jacob Chikrin. Right? If you really, really want to look at that, do you consider him a number one defenseman? You consider like that would be my question to you. Like, would that fit your mold for a number one defenseman? But that's probably the only defenseman right now that would be available in the short term that I could think of. But again, the NHL is a league where these surprise trades happen all the time, right? That not necessarily the insiders don't necessarily get wind of it. You don't really know they're available, and all of a sudden these guys, they're on the move, right? So is it possible that a defenseman becomes available? Yeah, and I think Hughes has to really keep his eyes open. But other than that, right now, if you're looking at rumors and whatnot, Chikrin would be the only one close to being a number one.
Well,
but they're asking
go
after
after
for him.
They're always going to ask for ransom for everybody.
That's
for anybody
right.
to get. No one's going to give away the number one defenseman for nothing.
Well, and they went after Klingberg, right? It just came out. Like I think who was it? It was what's his name?
Friedman.
No, was it Friedman?
No, it was LeBron.
It was LeBron. Yeah. So he came out and said they made a legitimate offer for 1 year. Maybe he looked at the team prior to this year and he was like, I don't really want to go there. I want a chance to win.
So he went to Anaheim, baby.
Yeah. So he goes to Anaheim. Maybe it's like, okay, well, the money and whatever is nice. Tax, son, nice. But now he looks back and says, they got some good stuff going on there. Maybe they come back to Anaheim there. Is that somebody they go after? Is he a potential guy? We bring Klingberg back into the conversation.
I think Klingberg was a bit overrated. I mean, I think he would have fit in Montreal's scheme. I think he does fit a little bit well, but I think that you'd probably have to overpay to get him. I don't know. I don't know if I'd take a risk of Klingberg right now. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary to go get a defenseman right this second. I don't think it's they're not contenders by any means. They're not. I think they have the luxury of time, and I think that Hughes has to look at his options, and he can't go rush in and like, hey, we don't have a center. Let me go get a center right now. Sorry for my barking dog, but we don't have a number one defenseman. We have to go get him right now. No, they need to go and take their time with this. I don't think there's any pressure, and I think they're dealing from a position of strength more than anything.
But no team sits status quo, right? Like they're always looking to tinker, they're always looking to improve. And so when you look up front of that first line's looking very nice. So like now lock that down. Obviously, there's your first line. Things are going great. You got Monahan who's still around, and now you're hoping that he continues playing well, and then you're gonna likely flip him. So he's gone too. You know, they have to start planning for obviously Monahan being gone. Drouin likely being gone, Hoffman probably being gone. I mean, there's going to have a bunch of holes up there. So are these mission critical holes that they have to go acquire a guy, or is there somebody in Laval who can come up a bit and take one of those spots?
You're talking about for the forward position.
Well, because if you're not going to shoot for defense. And in defense, realistically, the only place in defense you're looking to get is for a number one.
Montreal's got a logjam up front, and they've got players that can come into the roster at any point that can play wing and whatnot.
Second line players?
But there's so many that they could move up to a second line. That's the thing, right? You have Josh Anderson that if you end up moving a Mike Hoffman could go to the second line. You have Joel Armia can move to the third line. Jonathan Drouin for now at least, but yeah, he's eventually going to go.
He's gone.
I mean, we have Rem Pitlick right now that's in Laval. Like it's just everyone will move up a peg. Could Montreal benefit by having a bona fide top six on the second line and somebody that they go and acquire? Yeah, but there's such a logjam up front that it makes the defense even more more of a desire or need to address.
So for you, it's defense. Like if they do a move, the next move should be a defenseman.
But not just a defenseman. It's not just
like marquee defenseman. Yeah, not a Kovacevic.
Give me a puck mover. Yeah. Give me somebody who can be offensive, bring some offensive upside. Somebody who can quarterback a power play, but doesn't necessarily mean they got to be the best in the world. If we can, great. So Chychrun is a good move, and I think Chychrun is very underrated because he plays in Arizona. But he would cost way too much to acquire him when you think about his cap. It is also like $4.6 million, I think, for another 3 years. So you'd have to stay away from him because chances are they would want one of Montreal's first round picks in the next 2 drafts, and you're just not doing it.
And what would it take to get your all-time favorite guy who you think would come in here and take over the number one spot?
Who's that?
Who's my
your number one guy that you think comes into Montreal, and you said that he would be Montreal's number one defenseman.
He would be Montreal's number one, but he's not my favorite. Far from
it. Who is he?
It's Samuel Girard.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we spoke about this last season.
But Samuel Girard is not my
to the Habs and become the number one defenseman on the Habs?
That's a stretch. It's a stretch.
This man over here thinks that is not a stretch, but like easy. Yes.
Today, if Montreal acquired tomorrow, Samuel Girard, you're plugging him at the top right-hand side or left, whichever.
And he's number one.
Is he an ideal number one? No, but if you're going to target teams that have defense,
the guy has a
career
high 5 goals.
He's playing on the third pairing.
Okay, I understand that, but like why do you think he'll be immediately qualified to become your number one defenseman?
When I had this conversation with Matt, he's like, okay, what's out there that would be available? And I looked at all the depth charts of all the teams, and I looked at all their current top 6, top 7, or whatever, and I came out to the only team that would have a defenseman that they're okay and would be willing to potentially sacrifice to address maybe other needs if they need is Colorado, because they've got 3.
Okay, but it doesn't mean that you could acquire Sam Girard all you want. That's a very good move. But he's not going to be your first line defenseman. Your top D
he would be until other players develop into what they have to develop.
Savard's your top D probably right now. Like,
and how is that a good thing? And how is David
not a good thing
from an offensive perspective? That's why
they're in a rebuild, Vito. They're in a rebuild. It's not a good rebuild.
But Matt asked the question, and I'm saying that right now, if Montreal went and make a move, they could probably pluck out Samuel Girard, and if you took him right now, this second, on November 14th, and put him on today's current roster, he would plug at the top pairing.
But, like, yeah, maybe, but is that's not a definition? That's not in the spirit of the question. The question is, if you what's the biggest need, and it's a number one defenseman. You can't get Sam
But you're
Girard and
not
put him
gonna,
as a
yeah,
number
but you're
one
not gonna get a number one defenseman from anybody right now. Where are they? They're either already in the NHL playing. What are you gonna do? You're gonna call Buffalo and say, yeah, by the way, I like Owen Power. Okay, thank you. We do
no,
too.
but obviously,
Get out of here.
yeah. I mean, look, then maybe that your answer of number one defenseman is not a realistic answer to Matt's question. You know what I mean? If you don't think they could go out and get somebody,
I mean,
I don't think it's their biggest
get it.
need.
I
think
get it. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think their biggest need is the goaltending position. They need a successor, and I don't know if Kaiden Primo's the answer. And they need to figure it out, because if they stack up their entire roster and they go out there and in 2-3 years they're ready to contend and they don't have a goaltender, that's a big issue. And you look around the NHL and you see it everywhere. And yes, there's stories of Matt Murray winning cups in Pittsburgh and Jordan Binnington, in St. Louis, who are like subpar goaltenders who make it. But like, you can't build your team on that. And to me, from a team that comes from Carey Price, you have to have a transition plan. And I think it would be a big mistake if you go and say, hey, Kaiden Primo's the guy because he had a good run in the AHL. He's proven that he's been shaky at the NHL level for now. And he's also, he has not been the greatest goaltender in the AHL either, other than that playoff run. So I think that there's a huge question mark in goal for the Canadiens. I don't think Jake Allen is a perfect backup goaltender, but he's not the answer. So then who do you go get?
He's a stopgap until they find somebody.
And you go look at teams around the NHL, they're craving goaltending, man. There's so many bad goaltenders out there.
There's a problem with goaltending out there, and it's a big issue, because while we think it's difficult to find a number one bona fide defenseman, it is definitely harder to find a number one goalie to come in particular into Montreal. So that one, I feel like we're going to see possibly in this upcoming draft and the one after. I think they're going to grab goalies rather high.
But it's not only them. I think a lot of teams are going to start looking at goaltenders. There is a shortage of goaltenders out there, and I don't think we're going to see a goalie of Carey Price's caliber with the Montreal Canadiens for a long while.
Oh no, obviously not. That
is not happening. And a lot of fans who were either Carey Price haters or found them overrated are going to soon realize that, we were spoiled to have a guy like him.
Well,
I'm saying that's the guy who's got a Carey Price jersey on my wall. Yes, I'm.
I didn't notice. Hadn't noticed.
You gotta be fair. You gotta be fair. Listen, you gotta be fair to the whole thing too, right? So Carey Price was so good that you can have such a mediocre team in front of him, and it still made them at least somewhat competitive. Now, the kind of balance of power has kind of changed. So now you need a goalie that is not Carey Price level, but is a notch under him, because the front and defensive core are that much better than what he ever had in front of him. So that's kind of where they're looking to. So I'm not looking for the Canadiens to go out and find another Carey Price. I think that would be an unrealistic want for this team to do. I think it's outlandish to even consider it. You want them to hopefully find somebody who's a tad bit more consistent than Jake Allen, who has been phenomenal this year. You got to tip your hat to the guy. He's been playing very well. Even Montembeault has been playing very well. But I think, logically speaking, these guys, both of them, are not going to be the true successor of Carey Price in this market. They do need to find somebody, but it doesn't have to be a Shesterkin or a Vasilevsky type. It needs to be one notch under these guys. That would be the perfect scenario. Where can you find these people?
Russia, it would seem at the moment.
Well, it becomes an issue, same as the defensive, the number one.
US has good goalies too coming into the NHL.
Yeah, well, that's why I think they're going to draft a goalie, but I think they're going to trade for a defenseman. But to Dave's point, yeah, Sam Girard comes in. He might be number one here, but is he a true number one on another team?
Well, okay, hold on. I don't like the way you started that by saying he's my favorite guy, because he's not. Don't before people on YouTube and start writing comments ripping me.
Can you fade out your screen? Do we have a Sam Girard
it's on top.
Jersey?
It's on top of Crosby and Price.
I have a suspicion. I have a theory.
No, listen. I just think that if I got to go back to the Sam Girard, because I feel like I got to clarify this. It was when I was looking at all the teams out there, they seem to be the only team that they could basically let go of a certain player that Montreal, or a certain type of player that Montreal needs. And unfortunately, Fortunately, unfortunately, given Montreal's current defensive situation, he would be on their first pairing. Would he be there forever? Probably not.
Do you think they tried to get him in the Lehkonen deal and settled for Barron, or do you think that the target was Barron?
I don't think they went that route because I feel like they were just trying to rebuild and bring cap down and not take on cap not in that way.
I mean, Justin Barron had some pretty big cheerleaders, specifically coming from, I think, Crosby, who really praised him and sees him as a really good defenseman. I forgot the exact quote, but I mean, I remember reading it when Barron was traded over, and they're like, Montreal got a really, really good guy in this move. Now, they're young, so it's hard to say. But I mean, it's fun to talk about what you can do to fix the team today. And I think, unfortunately, as much as this drum has been beaten to death, the most logical defenseman who you can look at and say this guy probably is a number one who's available. Okay, coming back to Vito's whole thing, yes, the Sam Girard thing is because he's very likely available. The number one guy that's out there that's available, ready to move, is Chychrun. I mean, he's the only one. Now, do you have to pay a king's ransom for him? You're going to have to pay a lot. You're going to have to pay a lot. So my question is it worth it? And what do you think would be the top end that Montreal's prepared to get rid of in order to get a guy like that?
I would think that Montreal doesn't even go for him. They would have to give too many young assets that it took them all of last year, maybe the year before, to accumulate and build up to.
Spitball a package. I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, just what do you think is too much? What do you think is an Arizona ask?
Oh, a first-round pick.
For sure.
Another defensive prospect going back the other way, and probably a roster forward or two.
A young roster forward or two, not Mike Hoffman, and it would be somebody that you really don't want to part ways with. Somebody that you're going to look and say you guys are high out of your mind if you're asking for him plus the first.
Young roster guy up front?
Probably.
Who?
Well, that's it. The Canadiens don't have anything to offer, and that's why, to Vito's point, I don't think they even pick up the phone. I mean, obviously they'll do their due diligence, but I mean, I think the conversation ends when Arizona says, "Hey, Cole Caulfield, Kirby Doc." I think that's
not happening. Yeah.
Okay, but who else are you going to give? Like, realistically, who does Arizona Coyotes want on the Montreal Canadiens?
That's the other side of the coin, right? Like, if you don't touch that top line, when you mention young upfront guys, who's young and upfront? That is like, yeah, okay, we can see that this could be a target.
I could see Montreal sacrificing a defensive prospect. I could see them even sacrificing Florida's first round pick, and
I can see that too.
But I can't see them sacrificing anybody that's in their current active roster that is 23 or younger.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
That I cannot see. If they end up coming out saying no, I don't know, we want Roy and some other prospects that are in your pipeline that Montreal has them at as a somebody that's going to be in the top 6, top 9 in the next year or two.
Here, for example, Florida's first. Let's say Florida's first. Let's say take their pick between Harris, Barron, or I don't know, Norlinder, even
moving Jordan Harris.
Well, let's say. And then we talk about an upfront guy. Now, let's say they don't go for someone who's there. Let's say they go and look at our covers. Let's say they want Owen Beck. Do you do it?
I don't think so.
No?
I'm not the biggest Jacob Chychrun guy in the first place. I think there's certain places that would be a good fit. I think Ottawa would probably be a good destination for him, but I don't know. I'm not a big. I'm not all in on Jacob Chychrun. So that's my, especially as a number one defenseman here in Montreal, I wouldn't do it.
I do think that Jacob Chychrun, once he moves, you're going to see an uptick in his production because he's out of Arizona. But to Dave's point, am I 100% sold on Jacob Chychrun and willing to sacrifice the package to acquire him? No. Would he come into Montreal and make Montreal better right away? Yes, he would. Is he young enough that you could say it's not only right away, but for a few more years after that? Absolutely. But the package that you'd have to sacrifice and build towards acquiring him because he's got a digestible cap with term, Arizona has no pressure to move him. So they can literally wait at least another year or two, to get that package that they want before they actually have to move him.
So with him then out of the picture, and barring some kind of Gorton Hughes pixie dust magic that somehow pulls a legit one from another team, then basically there is no options. So it's status quo and keep doing it as committee and keep drafting?
For now, I think that would be the right play, because at the end of the day, you're a few years from contending. Everybody knows that. You have the luxury of time. Again, I'll say it again. You have the luxury of time right here. And the NHL changes like that, right? Like in a second, all of a sudden these guys could be available that are not available right now. And you either wait that out or you just look at what you have internally. I mean, you do have some. You look at this team and you say, hey, on paper, it looks like there's some guys who could fill the slot within 2, 3, 4 years, hopefully. And they're not going to contend before that anyway. So what's the rush? So you wait maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, and you see what's going. But the thing is, the danger with that is then you get pigeonholed. Yeah, obviously not 3 years, because then you get pigeonholed, and now it's clear that you're looking for a number one defenseman, and you'll never find one, right? It's going to become the center problem that Marc Bergevin lives for 10 years. You need to probably get one, but you still do have the luxury of time a little bit and waiting for maybe there will be a defenseman that pops up that's under the radar. Look, every year, if you look at the board right now, who's a free agent this year, who's going to be, and you look at the trade list, I mean, there's nobody there. There's Chychrun, there's Klingberg, there's Eric Johnson, there's nobody. But every year, names pop up randomly because of a certain situation, because of this, because of that, because the team that's supposed to be good, you realize that they're going to have to go rebuild, and then they'll be able to flip that guy to you. So you got to be patient, I think.
Like when you look at Montreal's prospect pool, there's things to be excited about. Maybe Lane Hudson could be that guy down the road, but he's not that guy now. You know what I mean? Kaiden Guhle, you already see he's already surprising people. People expected him to be NHL ready this year. I don't think anybody expected him to be on a first pairing eating 20 to 25 minutes a game already at such a young age, but he's doing it, and he could end up transitioning into a top pairing guy and the guys that we're talking about. But right now, nobody is. You can't label anybody as a number one defenseman on Montreal. You can label sub 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and so on, but nobody's a bona fide, oh my god, number one, I gotta have him. I can't have him because he's a lot. We don't have it, and it's fine. To Dave's point, somebody can surprise us. Somebody can come from the cupboard and end up becoming that person. Every team at some point finds that person. I do think that right now, if you look at Montreal's depth chart, I mean their complete depth chart, it's Lane Hudson has the best chance with Kaiden Guhle there too. That's my opinion. Do people share the same opinion? No, maybe not, but I do. I know a lot of people talk about Lane Hudson. I've been watching a lot of his footage since he got drafted, and he's very exciting to watch.
No, I think there's no doubt about that. I mean, bottom line, there's a lot of change that's going to happen to this team. I think this upcoming offseason is going to be an incredibly fun and exciting offseason for this team. You got a lot of big numbers coming off the books. Dadonov is going to be gone. Monahan will be traded, I would assume, possibly coming back. I don't know about that, but whatever. Off the books. Hoffman likely will be traded by the deadline this year. I'm pretty confident. Drouin is off the books. I mean, there's a lot of places now. A lot of
I'm
holes.
managing my expectations with who's going to get traded in.
You don't think that Mike Hoffman is going to get traded this year? Honestly?
Is Montreal retaining salary?
Sure.
Yeah, probably.
They'd have to, because there's another year at $4.5 million. Not every team's going to digest that.
No, they probably hold back a bit. Yeah.
The other thing is that while Mike Hoffman is starting to warm up, and I really hope he continues on this pace, but then he can fall into positive value in a sense. Drouin those guys are still negative value right now. Dadonov, you're not getting much. You're gonna have to.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that these.
But
guys
the value is removing them. The value is removing them from the books, man. The value is the money you're going to get. Who cares if Jonathan Drouin's on your roster this year? Like, who cares? Who cares? Put him there. Who cares? Let him fill in. Let Dadonov fill in. Let these guys sit here. It doesn't matter. The money is not important right now because you're not a contender. So it doesn't matter. Right. Let them all sit, and then once they're gone, that's where your value kicks in.
Well, and that's this upcoming season.
And that's why Matt's right when he says the offseason is going to be fun. Not only that, but the way Marty St. Louis is coaching this team, the way the team is trending, it's fun. It looks like everybody's having a blast. That's going to attract some free agents, man. Some fun free agents that you never saw during the Bergevin years. I don't care what anyone says, and that's what's going to be exciting. Because you got a coach like Marty St. Louis, and it's not a Claude Julien that's going to ask you to play defense all the time. Like, there's value to that, and you could see now. Yes, we're 14 games in. Don't get me wrong. My expectations might change, and this might change down the way. But Marty St. Louis is proving that he could win, with the guys that he has and the style that he has for now. So let's see how it carries over. Let's see at game 50 if that's the same case. But then all of a sudden, you have a very fun offseason coming, and that's it's going to be cool to see who they can attract. And if you're an NHLer, man, the chance to play in Montreal, but to play for Hughes, Gordon. Hughes is a player's GM. To play for Gordon, and then to play for Marty St. Louis, like that is all attractive to me. And a team, and you're going to play next to Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. This is all fun stuff, man. It's just it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be really cool. And I think there's going to be names off the board that we don't even think of because of Hughes' connections throughout the NHL.
So let me put you on the spot right now. Then, right now is a final little takeaway. Okay. Give me one name that signs here in the next offseason that is completely off the rails, that is like, whoa, that would be nuts, but no one's even considering. Just
okay, I have to look at the free agents.
I give you a little bit of time. Go ahead, take a look at the free agency, because I want to know, as you guys take a look now, unless if you got a name too, you seem to be staring right at me like, oh, I know exactly what it's going to be.
Because I hate you right now.
Yeah. So the point is, I want to mark this down this moment, right? This episode, and I want to circle it back. And if somehow, some way, either of you two somehow pick the person that comes and lands here in the offseason, I mean, we got to do something. We got to give you a crown. We got to do something, a little medal. I don't know. But I'd be very curious to know who you think, shot in the dark, is going to be one of the bigger splashes that happens in the offseason with the abundance of cap that they're going to have at their disposal. And for all the reasons
you want to like dream. You say David Pastrnak, I guess, is the guy.
Oh, mark it down, baby. Pass to Montreal next year. Okay.
I mean,
oh god,
there's no one. Obviously, like I think Kane is up there, but like I don't want Kane here anyways. Like I don't think that's good. I mean, they have enough of stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see who would be out there. I mean, Pastrnak would be the number one guy, right? That you'd want to see.
Mark it down. Dave got Pasta coming to Montreal next year in the offseason. Perfect.
Quote me on that.
Absolutely. Vito, who is it? Who's making the biggest splash?
Wow. Way to put us on the spot on this one.
Hey, man, Dave,
you better have an answer, too.
Let's go. Me?
Does it matter how old they are, or is there some criteria to this?
No, it doesn't matter.
No, anybody. Come in and make the free agent that you think is exciting.
Free agent.
Timo Meier.
That's good. That's a good one. I was thinking about that too. I think that's a good. He's a solid, like almost a point a game player. And kind of boring, but okay.
He shoots a whole lot. The guy's on pace at this point for like 450 shots.
Yeah, I think that could work.
I'd say Timo Meier. I mean, I don't know, man. That's a tough question. Okay, so we're only talking about signs, right? Not trades.
Yeah.
No, signing. Free agent signing.
Signs.
Okay, so yeah, I'll go with Timo Meier. I have a feeling though some other team like Ottawa's gonna go and acquire him, because that's like seems to be Ottawa's thing, just acquire everything right now. But yeah, okay, Timo Meier. That's what I'm going with. And if it happens, you owe me a beer.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Okay.
Matt, let's go. Who do we got?
Vladimir Tarasenko.
I was actually thinking about him too, but I don't know.
Vladimir Tarasenko is going to sign with the Montreal Canadiens next year in the offseason.
There's no way.
Watch it happen.
There's no way, guys. What do you think of Montreal's new mascot?
Love it.
God.
What do you think of Metal?
God.
Huh?
Metal.
And his story. So for those of you who are going to be listening to the episode, I have a picture up right now of Metal is his name, is the Montreal Canadiens' new mascot. So what do you guys think?
I love it. I love him. Look, he looks like Youppi's younger or older brother. Probably like a very how do I say this? Life experience, life weary. Went down the wrong path.
He looks like he's seen some shit. He looks like he's seen some shit.
No, Youppi's well fed. He looks like he was luxurious guy. You know, he was with the Expos. He's a bigger guy. Like Metal looks like he he was the older brother that, I don't know how to say this nicely.
Metal goes backstage. He goes backstage
he does some
at the
things,
shows, He hangs out with the band after, if you know what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's what he looks like.
Life experience.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's just say he has a lot of life experience.
The one quick thing about this mascot thing, and I mean, again, whatever, mascot, I don't even know what his purpose is. I think it's for the reverse retro jersey. But I do kind of like that they trolled the arena. There was the MC during the arena, like during play for the past couple of games. He's there with UP and he's trying to do a thing with the crowd, and like this music would keep interrupting him. And like it happened 2-3 times in a row, and like it looked like he was getting pissed off the MC, and he walked away, and everybody's like, "What the hell's going on?" And it turns out it was Metal all this time, like flipping switches and doing his thing. I thought that was kind of funny. I enjoyed that. That was like everybody's kind of like, "What the hell is happening?"
It's like a wrestling.
Yeah, a little bit.
I like it.
It adds some spunk to the.
I thought that was kind of fun.
Mascot thing that we have going on now across the NHL, you know what I mean? So UP was just, what the hell is a UP anyways? I know he's classic.
UP is the best. You leave UP alone, okay?
I love UP, but at the end of the day, what is he?
What do you mean? What's gritty? Well, who cares? Who cares what they
He's
are?
a grumpy orange thing from Phil. He's a monster. He was the monster that comes out of your bed when you were a kid. That's what gritty was.
Probably was UP, but UP just wanted to give you a hug.
Yep.
Damn it. Damn it, Dave, with your kindness.
UP's the best. UP's the only mascot probably to get ejected from a professional sports game. All right.
That's true. He did it. He got thrown out of a baseball game.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Good old UP, man. Well, gentlemen, that's all our time for today. Thank you very much. Everyone listening, again, we know we're trying to still iron out some details about getting these out a little bit more frequently and a little bit more on a fixed schedule. So definitely keep an eyes and ears out for that. Always, as always and ever, we appreciate everybody listening, leaving comments, likes, and subscribing. Obviously, that's always great. We really appreciate it. But until next time, for Dave and Vito, this is Matt saying this was
Get Pucked.